Miss Elisabeth Wolff. Thank you.
Hey guys, how are you doing? Thanks for having me here. I cannot tell you how delighted I'm to be here in Luton, the birthplace of the English Defence League. Native Lutonians are living at ground zero of the attempted Islamic takeover of England. Your resistance is an inspiration to everyone in the European counter-jihad. It is a privilege to have been invited to this historic event. As most of you know, I have been charged with hate speech in Austria, and my trial is currently underway. What are the charges against me? I will tell you. The original charge was incitement to hatred and amended to denigration of religious teachings of a legally recognized religion. Now guess what religion was that? I can't hear you! Thank you. Now how did you know? On the second day of my trial, the judge, at her own discretion, added a second charge, discrimination against religious beliefs. This is a more serious one, and it makes it more likely that I will be convicted. Those were the charges, but what was my crime? My crime, ladies and gentlemen, was to tell the truth about Islam. To quote the Quran and the Hadith, to cite the official texts of Sharia, to explain that Islam tells men to beat their wives, and that Sharia requires the amputation of limbs for theft. In my seminars, I explained that Islamic law sanctions the mutilation of genitals of little girls, like my daughter. It demands that anyone who leaves Islam be killed. In short, my crime was to educate my fellow Austrians about what Islam really means, as prescribed by Islam itself. Telling the plain truth about Islam in its own words insults Muslims. Now how bizarre is that? Ladies and gentlemen, the EDL's mission statement describes it as a human rights organization. Its primary goal is to restore the civil rights of ordinary English citizens. In recent years, these rights have been systematically eroded by the tyrannical, multicultural ideology of the state. Islam would not have been able to establish its oppressive presence in England if the civil rights of Englishmen had not already been taken away. I share your concern with human rights. If we do not reclaim our basic rights, including the most important right of all, the right to speak freely, our civilization will be destroyed. All of our great institutions, including democracy and the rule of law, are made possible by the fundamental human rights that we all used to take for granted. These rights are now being deliberately destroyed. The legal case against me is evidence of that fact. And so are the cases against Tommy Robinson, Gurmit Singh, Geert Wilders, Lars Hedegaard, and all the other brave people. Who have spoken out against Islam and then prosecuted for it. The rights which are being taken away from us are our God-given rights. They were not granted to us by our governments. People here in England are very fortunate because their rights were firmly established long ago. For many centuries, Englishmen have claimed and successfully fought for the rights of free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of conscience, and all the other rights that were eventually identified as universal. It is not the same in my country. We Viennese have a proud history, first as the seat of the Holy Roman Empire and later as the capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. But, sad to say, universal human rights came late to Austria, and their roots are very shallow. Not only that, the Austrian Empire was the prototype for the modern multicultural state, with its patchwork of ethnicities and official languages. To make matters worse, in 1912, when Bosnia was incorporated into the Austro-Hungarian Empire, my country recognized Islam as an official state religion. The law establishing Islam in Austria is the very same law under which I am now being prosecuted. So the right to free speech in Austria is neither deeply rooted nor greatly respected. But this is not the case in England. Any Englishman who asserts his right to free speech is not breaking new ground. He is reclaiming what has already been his for centuries. The rights of free speech, free assembly, and self-government are among the ancient liberties of Englishmen. Any government that interferes with those liberties is tyrannical and illegitimate. It is worth remembering that your cousins in the American colonies rebelled against King George III because he usurped those very same rights. The colonists who formed the United States of America began by demanding their ancient liberties as Englishmen. This is what we must all do. In these degraded and perilous times, we must stand up and reclaim our ancient liberties. This is why I support the EDL. I stand behind any group that resists Islamization by peacefully invoking its right to speak freely about the evils of Islam. Thank you. I'm not finished. I was prosecuted for informing ordinary people about the reality of Islam. Educating our own people is our most effective strategy to use against Sharia. For that reason, I advise you not to burn the Quran, but to read it. Only by studying what Islam stands for will we learn how to face it down. Know your enemy. We do not fight him with knives or guns, but with the pen, the microphone, the camera, and the printing press. Understanding what Islam means is our greatest weapon in the struggle against it. We do not need any intimidation or bullying, because the truth is on our side. Samuel Johnson once said, "Courage is the greatest of all virtues, because if you haven't courage, you may not have an opportunity to use any of the others." In the deadly times that lie ahead, courage will be required of ordinary men and women who refuse to submit to the tyranny of Islamization. Hate speech prosecutions and shotgun attacks are only a mild foretaste of what is in store for us. Colonel Alan West, one of the most stalwart soldiers of the counter-jihad, always signs his emails with the words, "steadfast and loyal." We too must remain steadfast and loyal to one another in the coming struggle. Never give up, never give in, we will never surrender.